Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3 back with another kicking graphic novel review, but it's not really a graphic novel review. Today we are reviewing the first 3 issues of Power Rangers A Nightmare on Elm Street. There's no telling when this thing will be completed, so I didn't want to wait till it was completed because I actually really want to talk about it while it's still kind of relevant. So Power Rangers A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm going to read you the About section on the website. By the way, if you want to read this, you can read it for free at mmprvsfk.com. So Power Rangers A Nightmare on Elm Street is an exclusive comic book project created by adult fans for mature audiences only. Although it wasn't made for profit, it was made to show how profitable Power Rangers legacy brands can be when targeted to the adult age demographic that grew up with them. We believe there's untapped potential in the Power Rangers brand that can capture the interest of adult fans beyond simple nostalgic appeal. By juxtaposing the optimism and wholesomeness of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with the horrific yet dark satirical attitude of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, we hope to give fans a glimpse of that potential. Written by Stephen Harber, artist Francisco Silvia Mauriz, coloring James Zark, and movie poster variant cover by Ryan Lindbergh. So, let's talk about the book itself first, and then I want to talk about the sentiment behind the book, because I actually have a lot to say about that. First up, the book itself. Lord Zedd catches Bulk and Skull about to skip school to want to binge the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Well, Lord Zedd's like, that's what scares humans? Okay, then let's bring that to life. He brings Freddy Krueger to life. Freddy Krueger kind of overthrows him, and he really kicks the Power Rangers' ass. Freddy Krueger gets this cool Lord Zedd form that actually does look really dope. He makes these kind of Freddy Krueger putties that don't look the coolest, but they are kind of creepy. At one point, he brings Jason Voorhees to life to fight with him. He also brings Pinhead and the Cenobites to life to fight for him. He destroys the Rangers' powers, and this is around the time of the White Ranger, so it's the Mighty Morphin powers with the White Ranger. He actually, the author gives the Rangers cool new forms. Like, remember how the Green Ranger could transfer his dragon shields to others to power them up? Apparently the White Ranger can do that. He can simultaneously transfer his shield to all the Rangers, and then he himself also gets a form change. It was actually really cool. The form change kinda looks like his movie appearance. Kinda not. But they lose their powers, and then they go to get their ninja powers, but that planet's been taken over by Freddy and thrown into a nightmare. And so while the Rangers are absent, the Alien Rangers and the Masked Rider... I actually wasn't surprised to see the Alien Rangers. I expected the Alien Rangers in this book. I did not expect the Masked Rider, dude! I loved that! Even his gold Robo Rider form. It's called Gold something in Masked Rider. I never watched Masked Rider, just the episodes that created the spinoff. But I do know my Kamen Rider, and I do know Robo Rider. But, yeah, so... the Masked Rider and the Alien Rangers are fighting Pinhead and the Cenobites right now, which is pretty wild. And the art is actually really good. I really like the art. And the writing is quite good, too. The characters seem pretty faithful. All the characters from all the franchises seem pretty faithful to their roots. And while the art is very good, in the middle of issue 2, it just becomes black and white. Like, it just goes black and white. And then all of issue 3 is black and white. Now, I gotta say, that's a little weird. If the whole thing, if page 1 of issue 1 would have been in black and white and the whole thing was in black and white, I would not have complained even once. The Ultraman manga is one of my favorite comics. I've never complained about it not being in color. That being said, don't give us color and then take it away. Come on, man. I don't know if that was because the colorist dropped out. I don't know if it was to save time and get the issues out faster. I don't know the reason. And to be honest, it's just an indie fan comic, so who really cares? Like, if a professional comic did this, I'd be pissed. Like, if DC just made Superman black and white halfway through one issue and the run was black and white from then on, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck was that? But with this, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's a fan comic. They have their own lives. Let it pass. Just let it pass, everybody. But it is quite good. I've actually been on kind of a... Hellraiser kick recently. And I will be reviewing the Hellraiser movies at some point on the second channel. But I've really been into Hellraiser recently. So it's nice to see that. And I'm not a slasher film guy. I'm not gonna lie. But recently, I've found myself kind of attracted to slasher films. So, that's pretty interesting. I guess it's just because I want to try to get into as much horror as possible. I also have an idea for kind of a slasher film parody. I mean, lots of slasher films kind of are parodies now. Most slasher films have a comedic thing going on, like Hatchet and, of course, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the most comedic of them all. Without it, once again, I'm not much of a slasher dude, but I am watching this. It's nice to see actual killers fight the Power Rangers, but now let's talk about the sentiment of the of what this comic wants, right? So the creators of this comic are making it to prove that Power Rangers should try to tap into an adult audience. That Power Rangers can and maybe should be more mature. And I don't entirely agree with that. I think it's already been proved that Power Rangers can succeed for a mature audience. First, let's look at the 2017 film. The 2017 film is generally seen as a failure. It didn't do well in Japan, which they were hoping it would do well in Japan, and people here in the States seem to dislike it. Whenever someone tells me they disliked the 2017 Power Rangers movie, they say it's because there wasn't enough action. And that's the only reason. At least that's what people have said to me. The 2017 Power Ranger film is for older audiences. It is a coming-of-age story for teens and up. And it's a great film. Like, it actually is a great film. Is it an action film? No, it's a melodrama. It's a coming-of-age melodrama. Let's face it, people. It's not an action film. It's got some action at the end, but it's not an action film. So what? Doesn't mean it's not a good movie. It's a great movie. I think it proved that Power Rangers could go a little older. And then we also have the comic series from Boom. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers just ended and separated into both Mighty Morphin and Power Rangers titles, respectively. That comic might actually be my favorite comic of all time. It's up there with Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. Like, it's that good. And it is for a more mature audience. It's a little more violent. The creatures are a little more creaturey looking. It's got more adult themes and etc. But here's the best thing about the Boom Studios Power Ranger comic. It's not so mature that kids can't enjoy it. It's a comic that kids could still read and enjoy, but it's not something that it's so mature kids can't read. And that's what I think the Power Ranger franchise can really be. You see, Power Rangers gets almost all of its charm from its lightheartedness. You take that away, you make it graphic, you make it bloody, you make it dark and depressing. You lose what makes Power Rangers Power Rangers. Okay, so when I was when I was a senior in high school maybe, this Power Rangers fan film came out. There was a lot of hype around it. Like, all the Power Rangers were dead, and like one Power Ranger was trying to save another, but it turned out to be Rita. Something weird. I don't exactly remember. I remember watching that fan film and hating it. My friends were like, wow, what a cool fan film. Well, this is how it went down. Most of my friends weren't into Power Rangers. When that film came out, I had one friend who was who was as much into Power Rangers as I am. When that fan film came out, all my non-Power Ranger friends thought it was kick-ass. And then my friend who liked Power Rangers, he and I both thought it was terrible. We thought it was absolute garbage, and then when you find out the director themselves actually doesn't even like Power Rangers, then it's like, why make a fan film for a franchise you don't like? Like, of course it didn't feel right. Very infamous fan film. Even Jason David Frank, I actually think Jason David Frank could, I'm not going to give my opinions on Jason David Frank right now, but even Jason David Frank came out and said he didn't like the fan film because it wasn't in the spirit of Power Rangers. Power Rangers needs to be lighthearted. And sure, I think there are a lot of franchises that can exist both lighthearted and not. I mean, look at franchises like Batman and Godzilla. They can be dark and gritty, but they can also be lighthearted and fun and work either way. But every time I've ever watched a dark and gritty Power Rangers fan film, I've always just felt like there was something wrong. Like, is it possible for Power Rangers to touch on more mature themes? Yes, that has been proven both by the 2017 film. It's also been proven by, well, Time Force, just to be completely honest. It's been proven by the comics, and it's been proven by Super Sentai. But that doesn't mean the franchise should be converted. And I read the author's statement on here. I can tell he doesn't want to take Power Rangers away from kids or anything. He just wants adult Power Rangers media. But we have adult Power Rangers media. We had a 2017 movie. That was adult Power Rangers media, and people hated it. And we have adult Power Rangers media in the form of the comics. But it's fucking fantastic. People love the comics from Boom. Love them. So, that's really it. My final thoughts, Power Rangers, A Nightmare on Elm Street is actually a fun crossover between Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Masked Rider, and several 80s slasher franchises. I am thoroughly enjoying the book. And see, here's the thing. The book itself doesn't even completely get rid of the lighthearted stuff. Like, you can still feel that the Rangers themselves aren't gritty characters. And so, I think he understands that the Rangers maybe do need to be a certain way. Wanting Power Rangers media doesn't make him bad. It doesn't make him wrong. Really, none of us are wrong. It's all opinions. And I do enjoy the book. It's got great art. It's written very well. Once again, it's faithful to characters. As far as I can tell, once again, I'm not a big slasher fan. I haven't seen a lot of Friday the 13th. I've seen one Friday the 13th film. No Nightmare on Elm Street films. And the first two Hellraisers. So that's all I can get from the slasher standpoint. But I've seen most of Power Rangers, and I've seen all of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I can tell you, he really nailed the Power Rangers right. I think they're behaving well. Bulk and Skull, too. I think it's a good book. I'm happy it's available to read. I do think you should read it. But I'd actually like to hear your opinions about, like, a heavy adult, like, bloody, gory, edgy Power Rangers franchise in the description. I'm not saying... Look, another thing, I'm not saying Tokusatsu can't work as mature, because we have Garo, which is fucking great, and it's entirely mature, right? We have Ultraman Nexus, and Ultraman the Next, that's mature Toku. But those are also mature Toku that aren't so mature that kids can't enjoy them. Kids actually. So that's it. That once again, Power Rangers: A Nightmare on Elm Street is a fun read, and even if you don't have a lot of slasher experience, because I don't have a lot of slasher experience, but I still think it's a fun read. So that's it. Thank you all once again for your support. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below: Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I'll see you all next time.